Well, we've now moved on to we're moving on to the topic of adolescence. Wow, is this a big topic in our society today? You know, adolescents are fun to work with. I see a lot of adolescents in my private practice, but I've had some recent problems that are sort of funny. You never see an adolescent now who's not in the hallway in my waiting room without some sort of electronic. It's amazing. They're all juiced up with electronics, and of course they're all on Facebook and all these other things as well, all these social media things. So it's a different world. You have to try to keep up with it as a counselor, and so I've tried to keep up with some of the issues on Facebook and everything else. And people get in trouble. I had an adolescent who sent inappropriate pictures of herself and then was arrested for trafficking in pornography because she was younger than 16 and the pictures were of herself. So there's some very interesting problems that are coming up in our society. I had one girl in who was, I have to tell them to turn their cell phones off sometimes when they come in because they keep getting text messages while I'm trying to counsel them. I had one girl turn it off because she was just bothering me all the time with this cell phone. Some of them actually try to text while they're talking to me, which is amazing. Anyway, I have them turn them off. And one of the girls afterwards, I said, well, how many text messages did you get, excuse me, during that session? It was an hour. She said 120 something. I said, well, you know what? I gave her a little wisecrack and said, you have no life. What the heck? Unbelievable, you know. No, 124 text messages or something like that. So anyway, it's a problem in our society, and adolescents are very interesting. You know, and a lot of the adolescents were hurt and are isolated, and they're causing, and that's causing a lot of problems in our society. They're not getting outside. They're not getting into, they're isolated in their rooms. It's on Facebook and all that social media, we're coming up with all sorts of addictive problems that are revolving around social media. So pay attention to the topics of adolescence. This week, the assignments. You're going to read chapters 11, 12, and take quiz 5, and watch 4 presentations. You're going to do the discussion boards postings again. Let's see. This is going to be on Feldman, again, describing how teenagers and adults get through the adolescent years without the risk of long-term effects of poor choices. And believe me, a lot of them make poor choices. Besides the discussion board, you're going to have to turn in your research paper thesis statement. Now, if you look on the research paper template that I gave you, you'll see an example of a thesis statement and how to write a thesis statement. This is going to be basically the basis of your the main point of the research paper that you'll be producing. So you should already have been writing and starting the paragraphs and started thinking about the order and logic and headings and topics of your research paper. Excuse me. Remember, I would suggest you keep all your research articles with you and then start to think about them and formulate an argument through them, or a course or direction or conclusion. Let's see. Every paragraph should be carefully constructed according to guidelines I've given you. Make sure you use proper transitions from one paragraph to another, and make sure they are paragraphs and don't just throw things in, okay? I'm not going to be impressed if all of a sudden you just throw something in out of the clear blue. This should be a logical argument to a conclusion. Okay, let's see. Suicide in adolescence is a major topic in terms of applications of this. It's a risky thing. You know, even some of the medications now, some of the antidepressants seem to increase suicidal risk. I did research on suicide in adolescence when I was a professor. We found a very interesting thing, that it wasn't how many friends that determined whether or not a child was likely to be suicidal, but whether you had at least one good friend. And if you had a good friend, you could often make it through that very difficult time of adolescence. So I remember that research, and I use that in my private practice here. I'm always trying to encourage kids and encourage our churches to try to bring the children in so that they can develop a friendship with someone who's appropriate, by the way. Right now, of course, you can have a good friend, but they can be the wrong one. There's a critical period in adolescence. I don't know if you guys know about this, but it's sort of like the critical period imprinting for ducks, you know. This is a critical period when children imprint on who they're going to hang out with in their lives. And if they imprint on the wrong group, it's a real difficult thing to put them back, get them back into the right group. So this is so important to have churches very active in getting children involved in church activities. My church definitely did a great job on this, and helped raise my children and keep them in with people who were thinking in the same direction that they were. My kids went on many mission trips across the world, which also helped them to have a different view of the world and a different view of others. So, but our church is very important in helping keep adolescents and get adolescents into the right orientation and framework. So anyway, just a little bit of an application. You're going to be working with adolescents, so study these chapters really hard. See you next week. Bye.